Hi guys, and welcome to Total Technic, and in this video we're going to be showing you how to do a toe adjustment, either toe in or toe out, on the front wheels of your vehicle. Let's do it. So if you're watching this video, chances are you're doing your own wheel alignment at home, and you need to know how to adjust the toe in or toe out angle on your front wheel. And it's quite a simple process. What we've got here is called the tie rod. It goes into the tie rod end here, and we've got a locking nut just on the end of it, and you'll notice we've got a threaded section. And then on the end of the threaded section, you've actually got flats here, because this is a hex head ready to take a spanner in this section just here. The process is quite simple. What we need to do is get this locking nut slackened off, and then once that's slackened off, then that will allow us to turn this whole rod, and that will literally on this thread here make that thread either go in or come out of the tie rod end. So then we can essentially use this bar to adjust the toe by either making this bar longer, which is going to push the rear of the wheel out, and that will create toe in. Or likewise, if you need to reverse that, obviously you can twist this the other way, essentially make this bar go shorter. It's going to pull the rear side of the wheel in this way, and that's going to start moving the toe out. Another thing we have to be aware of whenever we're making adjustments on the tie rod here, there's a rubber boot up at the end here, and that's something that we don't want to twist. If it's got a clamp on the end of that rubber boot, and so if we just start twisting on the tie rod, that rubber boot can get all twisted up, and that's something that you definitely want to avoid. So we show you how to avoid that during the process. Okay, now these locking nuts can sometimes be a little bit tricky to get off, so to make life easier for you, it's a good idea to put some penetration spray on it. We're going to be using Plus Gas, but there are hundreds of different brands available. Liquid Wrench, even WD-40 does a good job of this. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this on here. Let that soak in, and hopefully what that penetration fluid will do, it will literally start to run its way down the threads just a little bit, and sometimes that can make this job a heck of a lot easier. So it's always worth putting some of this on before you start the job. Next thing we need to do is get the suitable size spanner for our locking nut. On the Audi Q7 we're working on today, this is a size 24. And you'll notice that there is movement in this bar, and the reason for that is because it does have a joint in the end of the head here. You see that passes through, and there's a big bolt on the end here. So it does give you a certain amount of movement. Now if your locking nut is particularly stubborn, then what you can do is you can give your spanner a bit of a tap to help undo it. You don't want to be like hammering, because you might damage this joint or the pin here. But hopefully a few decent taps shouldn't do any harm, and that will be enough to get this moving in most instances. And another thing with this, if you do have to tap yours, don't keep tapping it in the same direction. Tap it a few times and then give it one tap back in the opposite direction, because what that can sometimes do, it can sometimes shock the joint a little bit, and that can be the difference between getting it opened up and not. And another thing that you can do, if you've got a steel tube, you can put that over the end of your spanner here, and then that will give you much more leverage, because you'll have a much longer lever to pull on. And another final option is you can apply heat if you need to expand it. Hopefully you won't have to do that, but that is another option as well. But hopefully it doesn't look too bad, so I think we'll be okay with a few light taps. Now before we start slackening off the locking nut just here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a measurement from the end of the locking nut, which is in its fully locked position, to the final part of the where the thread ends, just there. The reason being, if I note down this measurement, then when I come to the end of my adjustment, I can tighten that back up, double check this measurement and see how much it's moved. And likewise, if I need to reset it back to exactly how it was before I adjusted anything, I know what that measurement was, and so I can easily revert back to that. Another thing to bear in mind as well is the amount of adjustment that you need. For example, if you were to adjust this if you needed 1mm and you adjusted this by 1mm, you have to note that the tie rod here is not on the outer rim of the wheel, which is probably where you took your measurement from. So a millimetre here probably won't equal a millimetre here. It will be pretty damn close, but you have to note that the centre of the wheel is right in there, and we're almost halfway between the two there. So a millimetre here is not necessarily going to equal a millimetre here. So it will need a little bit of fine adjustment. Okay, so I've measured that and I've written that down. So now we can go ahead and slacken off our locking nut. Now before we start turning the tie rod, we've got to remember we've got this rubber boot up here that's got the clamp on it. So what we want to do is get rid of the pressure that's on this clamp. Now, a much easier way of doing it, rather than turning this a bit and then slackening it off and straightening it, is just to pop the metal clip off completely so that the tie rod can spin freely within the rubber boot, and then we'll put the clamp back on at the end. Now, you can remove these clips just using a standard pair of needle nose pliers. It can be a little bit tricky. If you've got a pair of these are absolutely fantastic, and these work with the vast majority of these types of clips. We'll add a link to this type of plier for you on Amazon, and we'll put that link into the video description below. These are a really useful tool, and these can be picked up fairly inexpensively and really useful for all the various clips around your car. So if you're interested in these, check out the link in the video description below. Now we just put our pliers onto our clip here. We'll just move the clip down onto the tie rod, and that will turn freely there, and that will allow the boot, make sure that's free, yeah, that will allow, as you spin that tie rod, it won't also spin the boot at the same time. You've got to remember to put this back on at the end of the process. So next up, we're going to grab the correct size spanner for this flat section we have here at the end of the tie rod on our Audi Q7 here. It's a size 15. And what you've got to remember when you do this is the direction that you need to move it in. So essentially you want that bar to be longer if you want the toe in, and you want to shorten it if you want to make it toe out. An easy way to check if you're not sure which direction to go is just put that on, note where it is. I'm just off of centre, and literally move it one way and watch the wheel. Keep an eye on the wheel. If you look straight down it, you'll see it moving a tiny bit in either direction. So you'll know then whether that's giving you toe in or toe out. So in our particular application here, we need to create more toe in. So what we need to do is we need to unscrew this, because basically we need to push the rear of the wheel out, which at the same time will bring the front of the wheel in. So for us, we're going to go anti-clockwise. And the key to this is not to do it in too big adjustments. I think we need 1.5 millimeters. So I've made an adjustment there. I'm just going to tighten this back down. I'm not going to tighten it fully. I am going to snug it back up, like so, back to the middle. And then I can take my measurement again and see how much adjustment we've made. So once you've measured that, if you're not happy with it and it needs a quick adjustment again, obviously you can just slacken that off, give it another half a turn or quarter turn, however much you need. Tighten that back down again, measure it, and just keep doing that process until you get the measurement that you want. And once you're happy with it, it's all measured, and you want to come back to this. Make sure he's properly snugged up. And we've also got to make sure we put our clip back on. I'm just going to make sure that's aligned as it was before I removed it. Just make sure that boot didn't twist during your adjustment. This one didn't, it was absolutely perfect. I'm happy with that. So your toe adjustment is now complete. So now what you'll have to do is use your string or whatever method you're using for your wheel alignment again, and you can recheck your wheel, and hopefully you've got the correct setting that you wanted. So that is it. That is how you adjust the toe in, toe out on the front of your vehicle. If this video has been helpful for you, you can take 1 second out of your busy day just to be sure to hit that like button for us. It really does help us out. Likewise, please consider subscribing. We've got loads more great content on our YouTube channel just waiting for you to check out. We really do appreciate it, guys. We'll see you on the next video.